Firstly, I hope that you and your families are all well. The world has a lot to deal with at the moment with COVID and with the George Floyd problem that's around. So may seem like a little bit of a sideshow in terms of how the EFL is trying to finish the 1920 season. But this is a video for Tranmere fans just to explain to you guys where your club is in all of this. I also want to spend a little bit of time to explain what our final compromise proposal, and it is a compromise, our compromise proposal means. Firstly, in terms of championship clubs, it means it makes no difference to them in terms of what they're being proposed to vote for by the EFL proposal. It in fact broadens their options if they want to use PPG or the margin for error calculation. And secondly, as regards the League Two clubs, we believe that it reflects and respects the vote that they took at their meeting nearly 2 weeks ago now, and that means that they can vote for PPG if they want to or not. And if you add the amendment that the EFL have slipped in at the end of their proposal, which can be added to our proposal on the day because it's not antagonistic to it, then you actually give the League Two exactly what they were voting for when they took that decision. Really, League One is where the problem is. That's where the fault line is within the pyramid at this point in time, because there's so many teams who wanted to play on to achieve their sporting ambition, but also there were many clubs, and I can really associate with this as I'm a finance person, who for financial reasons, very good financial reasons, in the face of what's coming to hit us as a game, they actually didn't want to play out the season. We were asked at the time to come up with an innovative compromise by the EFL, and that's what we did, and that's what we've done. Importantly, I think what I have to say is that we actually worked on that compromise and changed it by speaking and getting feedback from clubs. And just to arrange my thinking, because there's a lot of stuff out there, certainly on social media, that I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't for the fact that Tranmere were in a relegation position. It's entirely right, we are in a relegation position, and I'm the chairman of Tranmere Rovers, and I have a vested interest in trying to ensure that we're not unfairly dealt with because of our current position. Actually, when we started out on this, there were two aspects to the broad proposals that we put together. The first one is that I was trying to address the major issue in League One, which is that a lot of clubs really wanted to play on to achieve their ambitions and felt that they should. But clearly, if there was a majority who didn't want to do that, then something had to be done. And so I brought forward the proposal of margin for error, which was recognising the faults that exist in points per game, which all football people know, can see, and have seen what has happened in the past when it's been applied, had it been applied. So margin for error was simply an attempt to measure what that error was, and then to translate that into something that football people in particular, could recognise as representing what was their gut feel about the situation as regards the leagues. And in addition to that, because that was focused on purely on the promotion positions, in addition to that, I was maintaining, and what I still maintain is the right way to go, is there should not be relegations in a situation where you change things in the middle of the season. You just simply don't finish the season. And especially as the basis for making that decision was based on financial motivation. So originally, margin for error was focused on addressing this promotion issue and the playoff issues in League One. Going round the clubs over the course of the last few weeks and looking at it, I understood that it became practically impossible within the time allowed to get to a position whereby people would accept no relegations. No relegations broadly means an increase in the size of the league, and to get that you need 90% of clubs, and a lot of clubs were against it anyway. At the time I thought it was a small price to pay for avoiding what was an unfair situation in a situation that wasn't created by any particular club. Having said that, we then compromised further and took out no relegation. And and since that time, they've just really looked at applying the margin for error in the one league where it really makes a difference, in League One, and applying it consistently across the division. Why would I choose the margin for error? Well, basically I think it reflects fairness. I think it reflects what football people see, and in that we know that what happens at the end of the season is nothing like that which would have been predicted had you used PPG, because of all the things we know, a run of form, teams who have got nothing to play for playing with youth players, blooding their players, etc. And so many other things that come into play as you play out the season. I mean, you only have to look for examples, and you don't have to look far for examples. If you look at League One, last year, Wimbledon, Rochdale and Oxford will have been relegated. And Oxford today sit in the playoffs in this league. So you can see that if had they applied PPG, certainly something like that wouldn't have happened. And as I say, margin for error was purely an attempt to take into account all of those factors that football people really know come into and impact the end of the season. Further to that, I mean, there's just straight questions about the way this has been applied. Why, for example, can clubs who have probably less chance of getting promotion be given the opportunity to play for promotion, when ourselves as a club, when we have a better chance of avoiding relegation, and most football people would agree that, we're not given that chance. And I think that was reflected in one of the FA's decisions regarding steps 3 to 7. So finally, it's a financially based decision that impacts on us financially. It protects the majority and severely damages a minority of clubs. Is that okay? Can that be dismissed as, well, it's a pandemic, we can't please everybody? I don't think that should be the case, and I don't think it can be the case. So here we are. We have a process that, to be blunt about it, I think has been flawed and time has been wasted. And as a consequence of that, the decision has been pushed onto individual clubs, and therefore you see exactly what you would expect to see, and that is, a stew of self-interest. I am Tranmere Rovers Chairman. You expect me to go the extra mile in terms of helping the club and looking after the club's interests. All of the chairmen will be in the same boat. One thing I would say, though, and that is that because I'm Tranmere's chairman, doesn't mean to say what I suggest is wrong. I look at the self-interest that's there, and it ranges from maybe false expectations of what is due to people because they haven't deserved it on the pitch, and so if there's something that actually sort of moves that away from where they were, they are pretty much not going to vote for this. Broaden playoffs. People who are in the playoffs comfortably on PPG may actually be saying, well, actually we don't want broadened playoffs because it reduces our chances of getting promotion, and maybe some form teams will be included in that. There's even a situation where it's been suggested to me that certain clubs may be embarrassed by being given the opportunity to play in the playoffs, but for financial reasons, for good reasons, they can't take it, but they then have to explain that to their fans. And finally, I come to probably the most disturbing aspect of this, is where the silent majority is, because this vote is predicated on people who ostensibly know what their position is, know that they're not affected by PPG, and therefore would vote for PPG. But actually, on analysis, those are the clubs you would say would be disinterested, but it's been fed back to me that some of them would rather not take on and vote for the marginal risk of an extra relegation spot next season, with an extra team in there, but an extra relegation spot, and not take that marginal risk rather than vote for the certainty of what is an unfair, and they accept is an unfair relegation of Tranmere Rovers. Anyway, that's the situation that we find us in. As I said many times, TRFC expects its fans to go the full 90. It expects its players to go the full 90. It expects its manager and coaches to do their job, and our staff to go the full 90. And so it's incumbent on the vice chairman and the chairman to go the full 90, which we believe we have done and will continue to do. I think in terms of looking forwards, we have to understand that this is another adversity which we have to get across. We at Tranmere have been through many adversities. Most of them, we have to say, in fairness, were self-inflicted for one reason or another. This one is not, and this is one that could have been avoided or could be avoided, and we hope still at this stage to see it avoided. But if it's not, then it's something that we again will galvanise around, and we'll do what at Tranmere Rovers we do best, and that's to stick together and to make the best of a bad situation, and we'll do that. So until we get a chance to get back to Prenton Park, you know what I'm going to say: keep safe and keep well, and keep the faith. And thank you once again for your support, which has been fantastic. And Nicky and I never take that for granted. So thank you.